Oh, hello.
Oh, hello.
Hello,
How
everyone.
is everyone doing?
I know. Welcome to Left and Correct, the only
You know,
podcast where both of us are left.
but only one of us is correct.
Yes.
Uh, it's hot out there today, huh,
It is
Adrian?
it's been very, very hot. It's a heat wave, because on top of everything that's going on, the planet is also dying. And so here we see, increased heat waves happen every summer, of course, but like these intense, like 97-degree days and things like that. It's insane.
It is insane, and too bad we have nobody in this U.S. election who's going to do a darn thing about it.
That's not true. That's not true.
It's
Yeah.
absolutely true.
No, it's not.
I know you love
But
Joe Biden, and you're a
yeah,
Biden girl.
I have
You know.
my but Joe Biden tattoo and a secret spot on my body, and
Ooh,
it
oh,
it's
ooh,
my
like
it's my it's my Malarkey mark, and
oh, no, no.
all of us Joe Biden heads get them, and
No. Oh, I hate
yeah,
it.
and you're gonna
No.
get one on January 21st, 2021, when he takes the oath of office.
No, I will not.
Yes, you will. Yes, you.
Is that the only
Everyone
thing that
will. It's
saves
going
me
to
from
be a
Central
mandate.
Park?
It's going to be a mandate that everyone has to get their own Malarkey mark, and where you get it on your body is up to you. But it's a mandate.
This this is twisted. This is twisted.
This
But
is
I
this
mean,
is where we're at, baby.
yep, two fascist parties running to control a fascist
Oh,
state.
please. I love.
Absolutely,
Oh,
absolutely, they are.
please. Yeah. Oh,
Uh,
okay. Sure. Yeah.
I
That's
know you don't
exactly
believe
where we're
in
at.
anything that's actually
I
happening,
I
but
don't believe in anything, right?
we all know what is happening is that the Democrats' favorite boy, Donald Trump, is sending unmarked federal Homeland Security people to
Right.
kidnap protesters in
Right.
Portland and announced that he's expanding that. He intends to expand it
I mean,
to Chicago.
the whole friggin' point is like, this is what. See, the thing is, when he won and everybody flipped the fuck out, like, it's because we all knew that this was going to happen. We all knew this. And you roll your eyes, but here we are 3 years later. And it's like, because he's losing in the polls. Hundreds of thousands of people are sick. 140 over 140,000 people are dead in a span of like 3 months. It's a cash grab to just create as much chaos as possible, do the end game, create as much chaos and terror as possible, so he can swoop in and be like, I'm the law and order candidate, remember, only I can save you, and hope that that would eke out just enough votes, because that's all that matters in certain particular states, so that he can win the electoral college. That's what this is about. And it's doubling down on all of these, like, what he's all about: racism, fear, law and order, and sending in these troops. Who are these people? Where are they from? What, they have no training. Like, who do they report to these Democrat cities that are overrun with crime, which is like, what, 2 dozen people, like, spray painting a Christopher Columbus statue? Who gives a shit? But no, he just wants to start a friggin' race war so that people get all up in arms, and so he can save the day. That's that's what's happening right now.
Well, I mean, I'll agree with you on the point that that this is part of his strategy because he's flailing so much. 100%. I mean, I hate to predict. I love, all of us hate to predict because we can all be so wrong. But like, I mean, it seems like he's going to lose no matter what, no matter what's
Oh,
happening, because like rural voters are turning against him, and because it's all not even polls are fake. I've always said polls are fake,
I
and
mean,
I've always
polls,
believed it.
because it's always,
However, when it comes to
they're only talking to, like, whatever small number of people.
right, but the part about polls that I do sort of think could be potentially true is when they ask people like, "What's your top issue?" You know, because you're still polling a broad band of people, and when everyone in the country's top issue is coronavirus because that's all they're seeing on the news all the time, this guy doesn't look good to left, right, conservative, authoritarian. He doesn't look good to
Well,
anybody because he's never had a handle on it. He's never had like a
No, never.
strong presence. I mean, it would have been so darn easy for him to have some coherent, process, but he's a bumbling buffoon, of
Well,
course.
because he exists in the world of magical thinking where like he cannot take responsibility for anything. Like this is,
Right.
and if you look at the guy's life, like every single thing he's ever done, every business he's ever had, whatever, venture he's gone into, all of it follows out the same pattern where it seems good. It's like, oh, it's going to be beautiful and wonderful, the likes of which never seen before, jobs, this, everything's great, blah, blah, blah. And then it's just like, bankruptcy, and then he just like picks up and runs. Only it's our country that this has happened to now, and
Well, exactly. I definitely think
we knew
his
this was gonna
I definitely
happen.
think his I don't think anyone knew it was going to happen, but I do
Everybody knew
think
that this was gonna happen.
they did
Everybody
not
knew.
know.
You
Nobody
didn't know
knew.
because you hated Hillary
Nobody
Clinton
knew.
so much you couldn't take off your I hate Hillary mask to see what was right in front of you. Literally, everybody knew that this was going to some version of this was going to happen. Everyone knew. Where have you been for the past
Nobody
3 years?
knew. Not a single person knew. But
That's
you're absolutely right in that his playbook can't work for him because in the world of like crappy business dealing and real estate development, you can just like jettison and move on to the next project because there's always some other sucker to
yeah.
loan you money, and
And
there's always some corrupt government law loophole that you can get out of paying the debt. But like
yeah,
now
like
you
people
can't
who
do that
deal in that
with this.
world, yeah. Yeah, you can't do that. Like this is actual lives. Actual people are dead. And hundreds of thousands more are actually sick. And it's
Because a lot
not
of people
getting
say
any
like
better.
it's so long till November and maybe oh my internet sucks. Sorry, you were still talking.
Oh no. It's
Ugh,
only
I
it's
hate
we're
I
little.
hate when this
We're what? We've got a little over 100 days to the election. Um, a lot can happen, and it.
that's what people keep saying, but the thing is I can't see them coming up again, this is predictive, but I can't see them coming up with a coherent strategy that saves them because your theory is
It
that sending out the stormtroopers puts him in a position to say that he's part of this race war thing. And I just don't even know if at this point, if even enough of his sector of believers are enough people to buy it.
well,
Because
this is where and then you have the making sure that people can't vote absentee come November, making sure that the United States Postal Service is underfunded for people who are able to vote absentee, making sure all he's already planting the seeds that well, I don't know if we'll see about the results, we'll see. I'm not going to say that I'll it's he's already planting those seeds to contest whatever the results are. He's already doing it. He did it 4 years ago, but he just happened to win the goddamn thing. But that's it's the same goddamn playbook. Because we live in a world of shitty reboots. But that's what he's doing. So it's not even so he's just creating so much chaos in the streets where but of course all this whole sort of thing, we live in New York City. We know that it's not this dystopian, violent wasteland. We live here. We know this. But for people who are only getting their news from OWN or Fox News or right wing news sources, they think it's oh, people are running around. Oh, and in Chicago, yes, there are neighborhoods that are incredibly, you know, they lack money. Systemic racism is such a big problem, and these neighborhoods are uh, feeling the effects of these things. But it's being exploited to create a larger narrative and tie it to what happened in June with all the Black Lives Matter uprisings and tying it together. So it's the same thing when it's not at all. And it doesn't matter. I think people know that this is all ridiculous, and seeing protesters in Portland like come out en masse and like all these moms coming, like it's so beautiful and wonderful, and I hope that like people can come out and be nonviolent. But it doesn't matter if we all know it. It only depends on just a certain amount of people in certain swing states to be swayed a certain way. And that's where we're at, you know. So there you
Yeah.
go.
I mean, especially stuff about protest doesn't really affect those people because it's just so unreal to them. That's why I think that if he's attempting to make this "I'm the savior" narrative, I just think I assume people even in rural areas aren't buying it because even though like the right wing media might be showing like higher examples of there being like rioting or whatever, from what I can tell, as I was watching Fox News all this past week, they're not even showing like buildings on fire on like repeat. Like if something like that was going on, I could see like rural and suburban voters being like, all the cities are on fire, even though it's completely not true.
Right.
But like news channels across the spectrum seem to be showing people spray painting, and I feel that even people in rural areas are like, who fucking cares? I mean,
Right.
some
I
people
mean,
care, but when the riot started, when the George Floyd action started, they burnt down a police station. And that was
right.
like, that's what gets the people all afraid. But there's not been a
No,
continuance of that.
right. That first weekend was
So
like,
I,
you know,
I feel
images
like
of
his
cop
narrative
cars.
of I'm the fear protector will not work.
But that's what he's trying to manufacture it. But what ends up happening as a result, it really then it's incumbent upon the citizens to remain nonviolent and to show in, you know, showing up in response to this presence that like we are not the ones who are violent. We are, you know, get out of our friggin' cities, please. Um, but all it takes, but this is where, like, because these people have no identifying markers, we don't know who they are, we don't know their names, we don't, you know, it is rife. My thought is like, and you've got all these like cosplaying paramilitary like wackos out there throughout this entire country who they could get in a van and just like, you know, if you've got like a group of paramilitary right wingers in upstate New York, they can get into a van and come right down to New York City. Who knows? We don't know who they are. Are they with DHS? Are they with ICE? Are they with we won't know. So it's, I don't know. That's the kind of stuff that really scares me. Is it's just
Well,
in addition to
this is something
everything
I
that's
actually.
scary.
Well, because our internet connection is so crappy, let's do back and forth because I hate cutting you off. So I'll like wave my hand when I'm done.
I'll
I'm so
go.
sorry about that.
No, it's all
You'll
right.
go. Uh, what I was going to say is, well, I also agree with you completely on this issue that this is an above and beyond thing, the putting of unlabeled troopers out there to grab people, because it is absolutely a violation of habeas corpus, you know, in the way that we have structured our police forces. It's supposed to be illegal to not identify yourself. You're supposed to know why you're being arrested.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, and obviously, it is an erosion of any sort of democratic principle. But the really sad thing is that the Patriot Act, which has been renewed by both parties continuously, is how DHS, the Department of Homeland Security, is able to get away with doing this.
You are correct on this. I'm not going to, yeah. But yeah, but we're here now. So we gotta we gotta fucking make sure, you know, it's it's one of those things, you know. Uh yeah, we gotta, I mean, it's up to us, the people. We gotta say no. We gotta get out of our cities. You know, that's
Well, I would say we have to vote in people who are going to stop constantly renewing the Patriot Act.
right. But we gotta make sure that there is an election in November.
I think there. Raising a hand is so silly. I think there will be.
I don't. I mean,
Obviously,
I think there will be some version of it. But this is, you know, in other countries, I mean, we have become a third world country. Like, you do realize this, right? I mean, we were in everything. I mean, we already were teetering there, but like how other countries report on the United States, like you would think that this was a third. You know, you've got all these rising death tolls, massive unemployment, you know, chaos in the streets, like a unhinged leader. And so what do unhinged leaders do is like they try to make sure that elections don't happen, or like that free and fair elections are, you know, something that is becomes more problematic, suppressing the vote. That's something else that everybody who was, you know, nervous about a Trump administration feared. And, you know, it's like we're driving, like we know that there's a destination of like November 3rd, and we're like, I don't know. I don't know. Do we have enough gas? Like the needle has just hit E, and we're like, we just gotta get there. Oh God. And then it's like bumpy and there's hail and a dog runs in front of the car. And you're like, oh God. That's what the election is to me.
Um, but what I would say about that is, first off, all governments can fall to fascism or change their form. We've seen that all throughout human history. But that the United States, in particular, our road to fascism started way before Trump. I mean, you could probably put it back further, but really, the whole, George Bush 2 administration is the one that started the Patriot Act, gets us into war, creates all of this anti-Muslim bigotry.
Of
All the
course.
indicators are of ending, and voter suppression has been going on far longer than that. So, although I agree that Trump is now taking the visible steps that look like fascism in public, I would say that people who only focus on Trump as the cause of this are not correct.
Oh, oh no, I don't think anybody who is focused on what's happening right now think it's just him. I think that is a big misnomer that like that there were no problems before him and there will be no problems after him. Like I think that's insulting because as someone who has been following politics my whole stupid life and like you know American politics particularly it's like oh I know like the Bush like you know George W. Bush, that administration to me is like a deeply traumatic, it's like it's like a relationship I don't want to talk about because it just becomes so visceral. So like I'm very aware of you know of the erosion of power of you know particular powers and you know granting more executive power to presidents and stuff like that. But like you know, it's Trump is just pouring gasoline because he thinks he can, because you know, and because he does not think that he can answer to anyone. He thinks he's above it all, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I didn't make out everything that you said at the end there, but yeah, I
but it
mean,
was
he
all
is
correct. It was all correct.
flailing. I'm sure it was
Yeah,
all correct.
it was all
He's
correct.
flailing for sure. There's no other way to describe it. Did you watch his interview with Fox News with Chris Wallace?
I've watched the clips. I haven't. I didn't watch the whole thing.
The best. I mean,
Oh, I mean,
it's that's another indicator that tells me that he's going to lose because Fox News is turning on him.
well,
You know,
he's been turning on because Fox News, you know, is it for ratings? Is it just for,
definitely ratings.
yeah. So like they will, but they're still incredibly kind and fair and kiss his ass, but he can't even handle like the slightest hint of any kind of pushback. He melts down. And it's just like, why hasn't this, it's so easy to just like ruffle him up and be like, okay, oh, bop, 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 you know, and get him,
I just love him
caught in a
looking off
lie.
to I just love him looking to his aides, telling them to bring me the charter, bring me the charter.
Bring me
You
the
know,
okay. Yeah, bring me the charter. Oh, he wants to abolish the police. No, he doesn't. Yes, he does. Yes, he does. He met with Bernie, and they want to abolish everything and kill all the cops. No, they don't. We. That's what someone told me, and then he does that. Like, so that's what I
yep,
heard. It's like, dude,
yep.
you are the president. Like, you are the one. Like, the buck stops with you, right, dude? So, like, what? Nope,
So
that's
the
what they're.
reason, uh, Joe Biden is going to win is not because Joe Biden is good in any way. It's just there are people who I think have this authoritarian view of the presidency and how it needs to have decency and respect. And I bet that those people are going to vote for Joe Biden, even if
Well,
they're Republican.
no, I think it's Trump is an absolute, like, dumpster fire of a person and administration. And Biden doesn't have the cult of personality that Trump has, or Bernie has, or Obama had. Like, he doesn't. And that's not a bad thing. Like, that's, I mean, who can, like, it's fine. It's, it presidential elections can sometimes be referendums. Sometimes it can be someone inspires a nation. Like, there's no real playbook on that. We are still a very young country, and we should Trump not win. um there have been one-term presidents before, and if Biden ends up being a one-term presidency, and then we have another, there have been many presidents, most of which we don't talk about. It's like the 20th century, really, particularly like post World War II, like FDR and on, like all these presidents. Oh, they're such wonderful legends, and and all this stuff. It's like sometimes it's just, well, we got through these 4 years, and
Yeah,
uh, you
that's
know,
very true. And honestly, back to our early talk about fascism, as much as I freaking love FDR, you can argue that he's the one that began it with this imperial presidency because
well,
he did suck so much more power
Teddy
into the
Roosevelt.
presidential office.
Well, I mean, if we want to talk imperialism, that would have been Teddy Roosevelt, not
Oh,
Franklin.
no, I
Like,
mean, I agree with you as far as
yeah.
the foreign policy like planning, but with FDR, he was the one that was like, I'm just going
Oh,
to do it.
yeah. There was definitely constant struggles with Congress and with the Supreme Court, like making, getting things passed and done, and you know, our country pulled through it. Um, you know, Trauma of internment camps notwithstanding, of course, or
Do you think that Trump will be a new FDR in that he
Trump.
will get three
Trump
terms in
definitely.
office?
Well, three. Why not four? Why not five? Fuck it. And then he'll appoint Ivanka, and then she'll have 5 terms, and then she'll pass it over to, whoever's her husband, and then he'll hand it over to their kids, and like that.
Ivanka would be groundbreaking.
It should be the first woman president.
First woman president, Ivanka Trump.
That's what they want. That's what they want. They're grooming her to be the first woman president. All of that. That's like, she has no business being in the White House. She has no business meeting with Angela Merkel. She has no business being anywhere. And she's just like milking, like, that entire administration is just like milking the American public out of tax money so that they could go on vacations and like get all these, Chinese copyrights, and like just make money, and then to use their shitty brand to, like,
Yeah,
for
because
people
no,
who like them. Like,
because
ugh.
because the president before didn't do anything to build up his brand to make hundreds of millions of dollars.
Writing a book is not the same thing as being like, these are my hotels and this is
You
my
ever heard of
this.
writing a Netflix?
He wasn't
Writing a
president.
Netflix?
Oh my god, the worst thing anyone could do is writing a Netflix.
Writing a Netflix is top tier war crime. Okay.
To you, probably.
Uh, but before we wrap up, I wanted to ask you: have you seen Mrs. America?
No, I haven't watched it yet.
You have got to.
Yeah.
Speaking of plugging a Netflix, but it's actually a Hulu. You got to
I
get
thought it
Hulu.
was
It's
an.
not that
Oh,
expensive.
okay. Yeah.
Uh, it is so good. It's
Yeah.
I don't know if you know. It's all about the struggle
The
to pass
ERA, right?
ERA,
Yeah.
and every episode jumps between one of the women who were involved in the women's movement at that time, focused around Phyllis Schlafly, the evil villain who prevented the
Yes.
ERA from getting signed. And it's
Yes.
crazy because we know from reality that she won and she prevented this legislation from getting ratified.
Well, what was it? This past last year, Virginia ratified the
They
ERA.
did. They did, so it could still be ratified, but there are two unanswered like legal questions. I've been reading about it because I've been watching the show and I'm obsessed. Because also everyone's so good in it. One, it passed its deadline for ratification. It was extended to 1982 and it never made it. So now the legal question is, can a bill that passed a deadline still be ratified if it's a constitutional amendment and like literally no one knows? And also, is it is a deadline even a thing with legislation? Like
Right,
apparently
right.
no
Like
one
what?
knows, which is why states are able to continue. And the reason why is because there's nothing about that in the Constitution, because this is a constitutional amendment.
Right.
So there's no
Yeah, and
like
there's no
jurisprudence about how
right.
long an amendment can exist. But it's
Well,
crazy because they got so close. They got so close to getting it passed. And then this conservative movement like rose up out of nowhere.
yeah. Yeah, I know. People really like it's misogyny is a really funny thing like that. It's
I mean, you would love it. You would love it because the
uh
way they portray Phyllis Schlafly, because it's like obviously she's also a highly competent, super intelligent person, but just who is fighting for this patriarchal structure that she believes in so much. Like she puts herself through law school and she like puts up with all these men harassing her, but still somehow doesn't see how the women who are fighting for the ERA are trying to stop all of that stuff. You know, it's just
yeah,
it's fascinating.
it's and like tons of women are like that now. It's not necessarily of its time. It's like it's wild the struggle
Yeah,
for
every
equality.
movement has something like that,
Oh,
where
but
people buy
yeah,
into the established institutions and despite the fact that they are being harmed by whatever's happening. That happens everywhere.
yeah. But the thing with I mean, like with misogyny, it's just like it transcends all races, religions, age groups, cultures, like whatever it is. It's like there is this undercurrent of like, oh, the woman can't let her get too far. Can't give her too many cookies because you don't know what she's gonna do with them. You're like, oh no,
It's true.
it's
It's
true,
definitely true.
it's true.
Well, it's about time to wrap up. Any
About time
closing
to
thoughts?
I just want everyone to know that my fish, Finn, is doing much better and his tail is growing back. So
It's amazing.
Thank you to everyone who sent me messages and DMs and text
The
messages
message boards were blowing up with concern
blowing
for
up
you.
about fish care tips. I took them all in and I thank you all. And Finn thanks you too.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, until next time, I've been Zach Sommerfield.
And I've been Adrian Sexton.
And this is
Left
Left
and
and
correct.
Correct.